Hello, and welcome to today's webinar on ESTCP funding opportunities for installation energy technologies. My name is Deanne Ryder, and I will be moderating today's session. We will get started in a few moments. While we wait for others to log on, I would like to cover a few logistical items. Today's broadcast will be listen only. We will have a question and answer period at the end of the presentation. You may submit questions by using the chat box in the lower hand portion of the screen. You need not wait until the Q&A period to submit your questions. In fact, we encourage you to submit them in advance of that session. The phone lines will remain listen only throughout the presentation, so we will not be taking any questions verbally. We will not be able to answer any questions about specific proposal ideas or technologies during this webinar. If you run into any technical difficulties involving the presentation or call-in line, please contact the ReadyTalk technical support as noted in the meeting confirmation email. Please note that both the audio and the presentation of today's session will be archived on our solicitation webpage in case you would like to refer to them in the future. Today's speakers are Dr. Ann Andrews, the Executive Director of CERTIP and ESTCP, and Dr. Jim Galvin, the ESTCP Program Manager for Energy and Water. Before I turn it over to Ann and Jim, I remind phone participants that this is a listen-only session, and to submit questions, please use the chat box in the lower hand portion of the screen. Ann?
Thank you, Deanne. And I'd like to welcome everybody to today's webinar on the ESTCP funding opportunities for installation energy technologies for demonstrations to begin in fiscal year 2016. I will start with a review of some programmatic and process information, and then I'll turn the speaker over to Jim Galvin, who will address the energy solicitation topics. Before we dive into the specifics of this solicitation, just for clarity, we run two programs out of this office. CERTIP is the Strategic Environmental Research and Development Program. It's a Science and Technology program. And ESTCP is the Environmental Security Technology Certification Program. It's a demonstration and validation program. And today's focus is on demonstrations under ESTCP in the installation energy space. Just a few words about environmental and energy technology development in the Defense Department. We start by looking at the requirements that are defined by the services. And across the environmental portfolio, we do research in CERTIP, doing basic and applied research and advanced technology development. And then ESTCP demonstrations and validations are designed with the goal in mind to collect the data that's needed to support implementation of advanced technologies. ESTCP's program goals are to demonstrate innovative, cost-effective environmental and energy technologies that capitalize on past investments so that technology can be transitioned out of the lab and into field use. We promote implementation either through direct technology insertion into DoD programs or through gaining acceptance of the decision makers that will ultimately be responsible for buying and using the technology. The types of technologies that we're looking for in ESTCP demonstrations are those that would benefit from a demonstration on a DoD installation to provide unique information to the DoD about why our installations would find it useful and beneficial. Technologies that require a demonstration to properly assess the cost and performance of the technology, and that where the information that comes out of the demonstration will accelerate commercialization and broader adoption across the DoD and outside the DoD. In terms of maturity, we're looking for technologies that are mature commercial technologies that are already in use, are not of interest and appropriate for demonstration and validation, and nor are technologies that have not yet achieved proof of concept. ESTCP projects follow a fairly set pattern. We partner our technology demonstrators with stakeholders and do tests at DoD facilities to demonstrate technologies in a real-world environment. We aim to validate the operational cost and performance through independent test and evaluation and satisfy the regulatory and end-user communities. And finally, we attempt to identify DoD market opportunities so that the technology will transfer. The heart of the project in ESTCP is a demonstration. So I'll talk a little bit about the requirements for that, as that should be the focus of any proposal. We first look for a formal demonstration plan where we have detailed performance objectives that you're trying to achieve to demonstrate the success of the technology. And these performance objectives are tied to the data that you need to collect in order to support them. Demonstration plans undergo an independent review and require ESTCP approval before the technology demonstration can proceed. Then we look to execute the technology demonstration and collect all of the data that's needed in order to do the cost and performance evaluation. At the end, we're looking for written reports on cost and performance, a technical report, and a cost and performance summary report. And as you write your proposal, it would be useful to refer to the ESTCP guidance, which is in the web link at the bottom of the chart, which lays out in detail the types of things that we're looking for in a demonstration and in the demonstration plan and the final report. And finally, we're looking for the proposal to address how they will support technology transition, how they will gain end-user acceptance, what types of guidance and training might be appropriate, and to identify barriers and opportunities for acceptance of the technology by the DoD. I'll talk a little bit about the ESTCP solicitation process. We put out a call. Actually, we put out 3 separate calls. One goes to the Department of Defense. There's a broad agency announcement that universities and private industry can respond to. And there's a call that goes out to federal organizations outside of the DoD. Anybody can respond to the ESTCP solicitation through one of these 3 avenues. The solicitation specifically calls for a pre-proposal. This is a brief 5-page white paper that we will screen, and then we will request or not request full proposals. Full proposals come in, those organizations submitting full proposals come in and give an oral briefing. And based on the full proposal and the briefing, ESTCP will make selections. This next chart has just a few more details on that process. So we put out a call for technologies that went out last week. We're looking for proposals that respond to the specific topic areas that are outlined in the call. And Jim will talk to those in a few minutes. Then we're looking for a short written pre-proposal. We will request full proposals. We might make some suggested modifications. We might ask some questions for clarification. For those organizations outside the DoD, we will assign a liaison that will assist with site selection in developing your full proposal, and also will assist with technology transition opportunities. And finally, we'll make selections based upon this full proposal and the oral presentation. So now I'll turn it over to Jim, and he can talk more specifically about the energy topics.
Thank you, Ann. And thanks to everybody who's listening in and interested in participating in the ESTCP Energy and Water Program. Slide 11 shows a recent amount of money that the Department of Defense has expended on energy. You can see in the pie chart on the left, the smaller section in the red represents $4 billion for the utility bills associated with military installations. The pie chart on the right is further refinement of that $4 billion. You can see about half of it goes to electricity, about 1/3 to natural gas, and about 20% to other liquid and solid fuels. So with this type of market and this amount of expenditure, the Department of Defense has created an installation energy test bed using ESTCP as the vehicle to do that. The intent of this is to increase energy security, reduce costs, and also reduce our environmental footprint. You can see that the DoD facilities are key to this. They are the places where these tests occur. Specifically, what we're looking for in the demonstration of energy technologies is that we can validate the performance, cost, and the environmental impacts, and then create the reports that Ann mentioned recently so that we can transfer the lessons, the designs, and other procurement information to other parts of the Department of Defense and outside of the DoD to other federal agencies as well. We'll directly reach out to the innovations in the private sector, both large and small companies, academia, And we also try to leverage the work already done by other parts of the government, the Department of Energy in particular, the national labs, ARPA-E, and also the Department of Defense labs as well. Those comprise the 3 entry points to the program that Ann mentioned previously. What we also try to do is provide these capabilities to military facilities so that they're aware what's feasible, what's possible, particularly in 3 areas: conservation and efficiency, mostly applicable to buildings; the ability to generate distributed energy generation on military facilities. We have a number of federal goals that we have to reach, and also to look at managing our resources appropriately. And finally, it's important, and that's where we'll point in this, the topics for this year, is that we address some additional aspects of energy security. This chart shows a little more specifically what sort of programs and projects we have underway right now. They're in 3 particular areas, mostly around smart management, consisting of microgrids, which have storage, generation, control capabilities. And you'll see there's a foreshadowing in cybersecurity, which is related to our topic this year. Also, distributed generation is important. I mentioned the federal goals. By 2025, 25% of the electricity consumed on military facilities must come from renewable sources. And if those sources are generated on military facilities, they count as double. So there's a lot of incentive to look at distributed generation for energy security, and then renewable distributed generation for meeting the federal goals that we have. And then finally, we have a number of projects involving buildings. We're concerned about all aspects of the buildings, from design, the ability to retrofit, to operate them, looking at the envelope, the HVAC systems, lighting, plug loads, etc. So we've got projects that address all of those areas across the board. So now I'd like to turn to this year's solicitation topic. And before we do that, just another note on the need for energy security and the quality of the energy that we consume on the military facilities. The main purpose of the Department of Defense is to win the nation's wars, but we recognize that in order to do that, we need military facilities that can provide support to the troops, either that are deployed already or are getting ready to deploy or have returned from a mission. In doing this, we're finding that our energy infrastructure is getting increasingly sophisticated with the amount of controls, sensors, and distributed nature of it. And there's also concern about the vulnerabilities of that distributed system that is dependent on the external grid for most of our energy supplies, the natural gas system. And so there is an important consideration for protecting the infrastructure. This year, we'll be looking at that in particular through 2 topics. I'll now go to the first topic, which we've entitled Energy Generation, Storage, Dispatch, and Management on Military Installations. One way to look at that would be these are many of the essential elements of a microgrid. And so in order to refine what we're after in this topic, we have a number of shoulds. And the desired characteristics are not mandatory. However, we strongly encourage proposals to try to comply with as many of these as possible or achieve them, and recognizing that some proposals may emphasize one area over another, but we will take a holistic look at the proposals. And the things we'll be looking at are the ability to island from the public utilities, in particular to achieve 1 megawatt power level of operation for 120 consecutive hours, so 5 days of operation. And then 4 of those hours during that time period should be able to handle a 2 megawatt peak demand. We also want to integrate the distributed generation assets and improve or maintain power quality in terms of ramp rates for intermittent renewables, the power factor, the voltage, those sorts of things that are important to enable systems to work properly. We also want to achieve some economic objectives, and the savings to investment ratio greater than 2 is a goal that we'd like to seek, and as well as getting a payback of less than 5 years. This would make these solutions economically feasible, and there may be creative ways to approach that. We recognize that the systems could be totally autonomous, but there may be a possibility of a human in the loop as well, so those would be other areas to look at. There are many standards out there that are coming out of IEEE, ASHRAE, the Department of Defense itself, and so we would like to see those standards applied, and that the proposal should be consistent with those and possibly even add value to them by coming up with recommendations for improvements or perhaps just validating what's already been published. Also, there's a need for cybersecurity for these types of systems, and it would be very helpful to have Cybersecure accredited systems that protect the military energy infrastructure from those sorts of threats as well. Finally, it's important to recognize that people in the facilities will need to operate these systems, and so we'd like some sort of training capability so that when the project is done, the local facility, if they choose to keep the capabilities, will able to continue to operate it. Or there could possibly be some sort of contractual relationship there, but the installation, the government folks, the normal people that provide support would need to know how to operate these systems. And if it's possible to leverage other investments or cost sharing, that would also be looked at favorably in these proposals. So that's topic 1. Now we'll move on to topic 2, somewhat related, but more specifically oriented in 2 areas. So mentioned earlier the importance of cybersecurity, and we want to address this to enable all of the great energy innovations that are out there that we're seeing through many of our other projects to actually be able to ride on the DoD networks. Right now, most energy systems cannot operate on the Department of Defense networks due to a lack of accreditation, compliance. There are new standards emerging through the risk management framework, and it's important that we address those in order to bring these innovative technologies to the military as a solution to help improve energy security and reduce costs. So particularly these projects also should address the risk management framework, accommodate building systems, particularly things that would be in a utility room, the components I mentioned earlier, lights, HVAC, plug loads, those sorts of things. But also a second option is to enable the entire military facility to also connect with its local utility. So there's a need to have cybersecure connections between military facilities and the independent markets that provide energy to the facility. That would enable things like demand response, frequency regulation type activities to occur. We would like to integrate these into existing infrastructure, see that there's some sort of commercial transition possible, and again, achieve economic standards of savings investment ratio greater than 2, and the simple payback less than 5 years. And also, cybersecurity standards are very specific, but it's possible we could encounter recommendations for industrial control systems that could emerge from these projects. So those are the 2 topics for FY16. We'll now just talk about the process for applying to the program. You can see that we've released the solicitation a week ago, and we'll leave the window open for proposals, the pre-proposals, until April 2nd. And after that, the ESTCP has a process of evaluating the proposals and then In late June, we will notify those submitters who we would like to request full proposals from. They would submit them in mid-August, and then mid to late September is when the project teams that have been selected for full proposal would come in to ESTCP in the Washington, D.C. area to provide a presentation orally about their project. And in the fall, October timeframe, we would select the projects and then begin the contracting process or some sort of interagency agreement process to then begin the projects in about a year from now. I mentioned that we go through a selection process. It happens twice, first with the pre-proposals and then with the full proposals. And in order to give a little bit more background on that, we have the selection criteria listed here, and they're also explained in the pre-proposal instructions that are available online. Nevertheless, I will just briefly mention the relevance is important. We will only accept and evaluate pre-proposals that respond to the two topic areas. We don't accept unsolicited proposals, and we can't take those that fall outside of the particular topic areas that we're asking for. It's important that the technology level, as Ann mentioned earlier, it's been developed. It's mature enough that it's going to be at the prototype level, but not so mature that it's fully commercialized and already in use. It's acceptable to propose combinations of commercially available technologies that have not been used in particular ways before. So a new way of integrating something, the project would then enable DoD to understand the performance and see the risks involved. Regarding the technical merit, if you look to the methodologies mentioned in some of the guidance documents we have online, in particular the demonstration plan guidance, Chapter 5 talks about the test design, and Chapter 4 talks about performance objectives. If you look at those two sections, it will give you an idea of what ESTCP projects are supposed to look like, and you'll be able to set up your proposal to respond in that way. You would look at the state-of-the-art, what's out there, and indicate what sort of improvement the technology demonstration would present to the market, characterize the technical risks associated with your technology, and then also we'll be looking at the team that's proposed to do the demonstration and ensure that it's the right team members and that they have the appropriate background to do a demonstration. The cost benefit is essentially that of the demonstrated technology, and we look at that in two ways. One, there's recognizing if something's new and it hasn't been produced, it's expensive to do a demonstration initially, but at some point a commercial product would then have a particular cost benefit that would serve the market that DoD participates in. From a perspective of transitioning the technology, we want to know where it would be used in DoD, what sort of pathway would it take to get there, and then what sort of implementation considerations would one need to take into account as well. The cost is the cost of the proposal. Historically, the energy and water projects have ranged from approximately several hundred thousand a year to maybe $1 million per year for 2 to 3 years, depending generally on the amount of hardware associated with the project. If you look at the frequently asked questions online, you'll see that we are also recognizing that the topic 1 could be expensive because of the amount of hardware involved, and so we would see a $3 to $6 million total project cost as reasonable. Finally, the small business participation is not required at this point in the selection process. Pre-proposals do not require small business. However, DoD's goal for our program is a 5% participation rate of 5% of the contract value should go to small businesses. And when you get to the full proposal stage, that will be part of the evaluation. Finally, I just want to wrap up and reiterate some of the things that make a proposal competitive. As mentioned, it's important to just clearly address the topic area and respond to what we're looking for. Consider the questions, how will the technology help the Department of Defense achieve its goals? And how will you actually do the demonstration of the technology? It's helpful to make those clear for the people reviewing the pre-proposals. We're looking for a realistic schedule and milestones. Generally, a project involves some preparation, perhaps some design, final engineering, baseline collection period, possibly some sort of assembly or construction, an actual demonstration period, and then reporting throughout, and then final reports at the end. We're looking particularly for reduced costs and improved technical performance, and also improved environmental impact of these demonstrations. It's important to have a technically sound pre-proposal, describe the technology so that it's understandable, and look again at the performance objectives and the test design I mentioned in the demonstration plan. Generally, you would have some sort of hypothesis to either prove or disprove, and you would use the data collected through the demonstration to do that. And that would all be part of the detailed technical approach. At this point in the selection process, it's not necessary to have a specific site to demonstrate the technology within DoD. However, at some point, if you're selected for a full proposal, we will help you find a host installation. Successful projects are those that have good relationships with the host installation, and they've done the homework necessary to ensure that all of the permits, interconnection agreements, things of that nature are taken care of so that the project unfolds smoothly. This concludes our presentation of what we are looking for topics 1 and 2 for ESTCP Energy and Water Program FY16. We will now take your questions.
Great, thanks, Jim. As a reminder, we will answer as many questions as time permits, focusing on those that are generally applicable to all submitters or logistical in nature. Please note that we will not be able to answer questions about specific proposal ideas or technologies during this webinar. If you have a technical question, please contact Dr. Jim Galvin, whose contact information is located at the bottom of each topic area. For the first question, who pays for the independent validation of the technologies?
So all of the activities that are required in order to validate the technology should be scoped into the proposal. So that would be doing the planning for what the performance objectives are, what data needs to be collected, how the data needs to be analyzed, so that you come to a set of rigorous metrics at the end of the demonstration. ESTCP will take the demonstration plan that you submit that covers all of those things and have that demonstration plan independently reviewed, and that is a cost that's borne by ESTCP.
If we propose a demonstration for topic area 1, can it also include aspects of topic 2, such as cybersecurity?
Yes, if you look closely at the topic 1 description, it does include a cybersecurity piece as well. Just today, the President of the United States is out at Stanford having a meeting about cybersecurity. This is something we're all facing both personally and in our professional lives. And so this year we're really emphasizing that aspect of the demonstration.
Do you have any funding guidance to offer for the cybersecurity topic? Does the several $100,000 to $1 million per year apply to this as well?
We don't offer specific guidance on any of the topics. The rule of thumb is that we would like you to propose what you really think that the work will cost. ESTCP projects will run anywhere from $100,000 to over $1 million in a year. They might run from 1 year to maybe 3 years. And really, the cost and the schedule are at the discretion of the proposer and should be appropriate for the complexity of the project.
Thank you. Is this proposal open to solutions geared towards forward operating installations as well?
No, this proposal is for military facilities, mostly in the United States. Some can be overseas. Forward operating bases would primarily be for expeditionary or contingency operations, and those do not fall under the purview of the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Energy Installations and Environment. So that's the area we would work with, are those military facilities in that range. They could possibly be overseas. However, we do look at the costs associated with the projects, and often overseas costs can be prohibitive. Out of over 100 projects, only one has not been within the United States.
Is cost sharing necessary?
No, cost sharing is not necessary. Depending on the type of project, it can be beneficial, and it's something that we would take into consideration, but it is not necessary.
Thank you. Are there detailed topics available online?
Yes, if you look at the ESTCP website and go to the topic areas, you will see that the proposal, the request for proposal itself does not include the topics. However, it has links to specific topic areas 1 and 2.
Will there be a partnering list so that individuals with relevant technology can join part of the team building of the solution for the system, a system solution?
We don't have plans to put together any sort of formal partnering list. We would encourage you to build your team with the appropriate technical partners that you need in order to perform the demonstration. What ESTCP does do is, if you come into the ESTCP program either through the broad agency announcement or to the call for organizations outside of DoD, we will assign you a DoD liaison who can help you navigate the site selection process and the preparation of the full proposal.
Thank you. Are you looking for projects that utilize existing DG assets?
We're looking for projects that could use any existing infrastructure at military facilities or could bring in new components that would also be part of the demonstration. So yes, it's possible to use existing infrastructure, existing distributed generation.
If you don't have a commercial partner yet, is submitting a pre-proposal advisable?
I think what that question likely means is, do you have to have a specific technology picked out to demonstrate? And I would suggest that probably you should. The greatest emphasis in the proposal evaluation is on the technical merits. So we need to have enough detail about the specific technology that you're planning to demonstrate in order to do that evaluation. A proposal that didn't describe that completely would not fare very well.
Thank you. Are Hawaii and Alaska considered OCONUS?
They are considered OCONUS. However, they're acceptable demonstration sites for ESTCP energy and water demonstrations. In those two locations, the cost of electricity is much higher than in the mainland United States, so the economics could be better there.
Are there smaller capacity systems accepted?
As Jim said on the microgrid topic, the characteristics listed in the solicitation are the desired characteristics. I think that a proposal should strive to stretch to meet those characteristics. They're not absolute requirements, but a system that was a factor of 2 or 4 or somewhat smaller, I think really wouldn't fit in with that.
Great, thank you. The next question for topic area 1, it has a 4 megawatts demonstration requirement. If a technology has a $3 million per megawatt capital cost, Would the $12 million budget range be foreseeable?
Realistically, a $12 million project would be outside of the budget of the ESTCP program. We're looking, we realize we've put some difficult thresholds on the table, but again, they are shoulds, and so we're trying to see if we can get to these standards with investments. Again, leveraging existing infrastructure may be part of the solution.
Great, thank you. Is this the only funding opportunity from ESTCP this year?
The two energy topics that we put forward in this solicitation are the only two energy topics we are planning on soliciting at the moment.
On topic 2, the guidance mentions plug and play in the list of desired characteristics. Can you elaborate on what you mean by plug and play?
The challenge that we face with building systems in particular is that if each device has to be individually accredited, it's very time consuming. And so we're looking for some way to make that a more easily expandable solution, to put one device that may be able to allow a number of components to plug into it and then provide that cybersecurity.
Is there an advantage to having a proposal submitted through a DoD or private sector partner?
No, we use basically the same criteria to evaluate proposals submitted in response to all three of the solicitation pathways. Sometimes it will make more sense for a DoD entity to take the lead. Sometimes it will make more sense for technical reasons for the private sector to take a lead, but there's no advantage either way.
What is the TRL needed?
ESTCP doesn't specify a technology readiness level specifically. From a generic perspective, it would be in the TRL 6 to 7 range. However, what we're really looking for is that within 1 year of being on contract on a project, that the engineering has occurred to enable the prototype system to be able to operate in a field environment.
If a proposal contains proprietary information when it is submitted, will this information be protected?
Yes, definitely. Everyone who has access to handling and evaluating proposals signs non-disclosure agreements and conflict of interest agreements.
Great, thank you. Can foreign organizations submit proposals to ESTCP?
Yes, ESTCP can work with foreign submitters. There may be some challenges with contracting involving a few additional steps, and also foreign nationals may not be allowed to enter military facilities. Usually they have to be escorted. We defer to the local facility managers to make that call.
Great, thanks. Does the demonstration site need to be identified prior to submitting a pre-proposal?
No. If you can't identify a demonstration site prior to submitting your proposal, we would encourage you to describe in your proposal the features, characteristics of a demonstration site that would be suitable, so that would give us some guidance in trying to steer you in the right direction.
Do you consider the provision of labor, equipment, and et cetera for cost sharing, or does it only include money?
The cost sharing would consist usually of offering some of the labor. It could possibly be providing equipment. It does not have to be specifically mentioned as money. Normally, the project cost sheets for a full proposal break down how the costs will be divided among labor, equipment, materials, and that's where the cost sharing could be indicated.
Who owns the hardware or equipment purchased with ESTCP project funds following the completion of the demonstration?
All equipment that's purchased with government funds is the property of the government. Our goal at the end of the demonstration is that the demonstration is successful and that we leave the installation with an asset that it wants to maintain.
Great, thank you. Would the housing area for a base be considered suitable to include as part of the demonstration site?
No, most of the base housing is privatized, and so we use the government facilities that are not privatized. So the solutions should address commercial buildings. There may be small buildings on military facilities that would be comparable to private residential housing, but the housing areas themselves, because of the privatization, we will not do demonstrations at those locations.
If the technology is not currently ready for prototype demo, but is anticipated to be at the time of performance, is it still eligible?
Yes, technically I think yes it is. We would want you to describe what activities, we would want you to describe what activities need to take place between the submission of the pre-proposal and when you would commence the demonstration. We would want to understand what the risks are so that we could evaluate whether we think the technology would be ready for demonstration at that time.
Great, thank you. Project needs to show load capacity of 1 megawatt, or a scaled model with a lower load is sufficient.
We're wanting to see 1 megawatt load capability in the topic 1 proposal.
Who controls the rights to intellectual property developed through ESTCP funding?
The rules on intellectual property are outlined in the Federal Acquisition Regulations, the FAR. I'm not a lawyer, but in a nutshell, if you bring to us a technology that is completely developed and we only pay for the demonstration, the government doesn't really have any investment in the intellectual property and doesn't have any intellectual property rights. If under the ESTCP project you do any development work, then the government has the right to the use of that work, but the developer maintains the right to continue to develop the technology and to commercially field the technology.
Can a firm or another organization be part of multiple proposals from different organizations?
Yes, it's possible to be involved in more than one proposal. Would caution those considering that to recognize that they may be diluting their offering if it becomes involved in too many different proposals. However, we do see partnerships as part of a proposal typically, and it's possible that one firm could partner with multiple organizations that submit proposals.
Can a proposal that was submitted in a previous year but not selected for funding be resubmitted this year?
Only if it is directly applicable to one of the topic areas of the current year.
Great, thanks. What are you using as a power cost to determine payback? These can be different in different areas.
Right. We recognize that the cost of electricity in particular varies from a few cents in some locations to perhaps into the mid-20s, 25 cents or higher in others. The demonstration would use the local electricity costs as part of their economic analysis. And in terms of doing additional analysis of how the demonstrated technology would perform elsewhere, it would be acceptable to look at other electricity rates to do somewhat of a sensitivity analysis.
Great, thank you. Can demonstrations be performed on installations outside of the United States?
Yes. The installation energy topic encompasses permanent installations outside the United States, such as our permanent bases abroad. It does not encompass forward operating bases. That said, because of the high cost typically associated with working outside of the United States, you would have to carefully justify why such a demonstration was necessary.
Will individuals who submit pre-proposals but are not selected receive any feedback?
No, due to the volume of pre-proposals we receive, we are not able to give feedback to those that are not selected at the pre-proposal stage.
Great, thank you. This was the last general question that we have received. There are other questions which are more topic area or technology specific. Again, that we ask that you contact Dr. Galvin for those questions. Thank you for attending today's webinar. As a reminder, the presentation and audio will be archived for future reference on the ESTCP solicitation webpage. This concludes today's webcast.